Right, action. Today we've got Mr. Holly Johnson, special guest star for the blog, World's End blog. We've got him sitting in a chair, the changing room chair, round the side of the shop because there's a big bus in front of the shop. Anyway, so welcome to Holly. So,
hello Ben.
So it's been a while since I've seen you, and
almost.
But you regularly come to the shop, I hear.
Yeah, this shop is for me an important cultural landmark. In fact, when I was living in Liverpool as a young man and bumping into people like Pete Burns and Lynn Burns and Paul Rutherford, who would make regular trips to this shop to where, well actually it wasn't this shop, it was Seditionaries or Sex even. And I think the first time I came here it was called either Sex or Seditionaries, I'm not quite sure, and Jordan was still working here.
Right.
And she was worth the price of admission just on her own. She was an amazing, sort of iconic figure really to a lot of us who read the New Musical Express or maybe the fashion pages. I also used to see photographs of Chrissie Hynde with Vivian photographed in the shop, and then heard about Malcolm and McLaren and forming the Sex Pistols in the shop, and John Lydon performing to the jukebox. And
is this before you came to the shop or after?
I think this would probably be, most of it was before, although I did come and I met Jordan and Simon, who was working here at the time.
Yeah, Simon Barker.
Yeah, I think it was Simon Barker, but there was another lad as well.
Right.
I can't remember his name. But Jordan was definitely like nobody I'd ever seen before, and it was a special place. Really had an atmosphere. You almost had to pluck up your courage to walk in.
Right.
It was that kind of shop.
Yeah.
It had an atmosphere and a kind of status. It was sort of, for my generation, a kind of centre for interesting urban streetwear in a way, and what was going on.
Were there other places, or was this the main place?
Well, there were other places like Anthony Price. If you were into Roxy music, you knew that Anthony Price was designing their clothing, and he had a shop called Plaza around the corner in an earlier era. And also Johnson's just here was also very rock and roll in a way that Let It Rock had been, in fact, which is another, was that a previous incarnation of the shop?
Yeah.
Too Fast to Live, Too Young to Die, which were kind of before my time of visiting London.
Were you up in, where did you
near
come from?
Penny Lane in Liverpool,
right?
Really,
Liverpool.
where
course
the legendary Beatles come from. So I was always interested in pop music and what was happening now, at every moment, and the Sex Pistols and the Clash and Susie and the Banshees and all of those things were happening.
When you came down to London?
When I was about 16 or 17 and first came down, and with a friend who wanted to buy a pair of bondage trousers.
Many a story start off with I wanted to buy a pair of bondage trousers.
Well, I'm sure they are. Well, that's quite interesting reggae music. That's the sort of music you would hear actually at the time in nightclubs like Eric's, where the Liverpool version or equivalent of the Bromley contingent would hang out. People like Jane Casey, Bill Drummond, Ian Brody, Budgie, who later joined the Banshees. We were all in a band together called Big in Japan.
Because you were one of them?
I was the bass player and lyricist, and that was my early sort of, or start in the music industry proper.
So there was a gap when the shop was closed after Malcolm and Mother split up. And you came to the shop and my grandmother was working in there.
That's right. The shop had no electricity at the time, and your grandmother was. Is she from Glossop, your grandmother?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was sewing on buttons. And Vivian was also working in the shop, and she just reopened after a sojourn to Italy that hadn't quite gone as planned, apparently. Although Vivian wouldn't be drawn on the subject.
With Ferrucci, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. And I thought, oh, this is great, the shop's reopened. I only lived down the road in Parsons Green, and it was the actual nearest clothes shop to where I lived, so I kept coming regularly and buying new things, and it was still very much seemed like a cottage industry at that time. And
it was, with my grandma saying buttons on.
Yeah, and
I was doing the driving.
Yeah,
and my brother was doing sort of working in the shop in the accounts.
I remember that, and for a while you had to write checks to your brother and things like that. Or Ben Corrie, not Ben Corrie, Joe Corrie was his name.
Yeah, my brother.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Ollie, let's nip round the front of the shop. We'll get the shop in the background. Shouldn't be too hard with our equipment. Yeah, I'll carry that for you.
The buses and
maybe we can use the bus to our advantage. We should have done this before.
oh yeah, because the bus kind of shields us a bit.
Yeah, no, that's a bit better, I think. So part 2, I think, you know, let's just hold on.